Hey there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me today. I finally spent my Christmas gift from my mom and her husband, and I bought the new alcohol pearls from Ranger. And so what I bought was a bundle, and what you're seeing here is all that came in that bundle. In this video, I'm essentially just going to play around with these inks, and then I'm going to give you my impression of them. And in the end, I will show you several finished products using the backgrounds that I made. So let's go ahead and swatch these colors. So here are all the beautiful colors out of their packaging, and I just had to put them in rainbow color, or rainbow order, because that's just how my brain works. Asked my mom, ever since I was little, I was always pretty much obsessed with the rainbow, and so they're gorgeous. Just looking at this makes my heart just happy. So to swatch, I have cut out 12 pieces of Yupo paper. These are about 1.5 inches, or 1 inch by 1.5 inches or so, and we're going to go ahead and get started swatching. When you go to use these, you're going to need to shake the stew out of them. There's all that pigment powder or mica or whatever it is down at the bottom. So you're going to want to make sure that that is good and just good and mixed in. I have a drop of alcohol blending solution, and then I drop one bit of that color on there. And this is the color Deception. And I like to spritz mine around with a marker spritzer. So that way when I put it in my swatch book, I have an idea of what the color looks like, you know, full strength, and what it looks like in the veining, and lighter as well. So that is how I like to swatch each of my colors, and I'll show you a couple of them, but we're going to start off here with the Deception, and I'm doing this on my glass mat because that makes the cleanup so super easy. So take a look at that. It's still a little bit wet, but look at the shimmer in that, and I don't even think the camera does it justice, but there is so much beautiful shimmer on there. I won't show you all of them that I do because it's basically the same process over and over and over again. But this one is called Splendor. It's the orange in the group. And yeah, it takes a bit to get that mica moved around in there because you want to make sure it's distributed all very well. And I did notice that when these sit for a little bit of time, you'll definitely have to pick them up and shake them again. So once again, a little bit of alcohol blending solution, a drop of the Splendor, and then I'm spritzing that around with my marker spritzer and just making sure that I have some good veining and just some different variation. And once again, look at that shimmer. It's just beautiful. All right, here they are, all swatched. I have mine in 4x6 page protectors, which is why they're laid out this way. I've glued each of the swatches down, and then I've written their names underneath, and I love the shimmer. It's beautiful. So yeah, I put it in that 4x6 page protector, and then that just goes inside my swatch book for all my different colors of things. And this is just an easy guide for me to be able to go back and take a look at how things look and how they would compare to other mediums and such. So there they are in all their beautiful glory. For my first background, I naturally had to do a rainbow, so that's what we're going to do. I'm shaking up those that seem to need a little bit more shaking. I am putting down a drop or two, putting down the alcohol blending solution, and then I am spritzing it with my marker spritzer. And then I'll just keep adding those colors next to each other and adding more where I think it's necessary. I love the fan out. It almost looks like some sort of colored smoke, and it's so pretty. I only use the alcohol blending solution in this particular case because that's what came in my little bundle. But you could use 90% isopropyl alcohol, or 91%. I'm sure that's what I'll use, going forward in the future. And probably still using the alcohol blending solution because I do have a couple of these bottles. And I'm just moving down the line. So the colors that I use, they started off with Deception, then I went to Splendor, then Alchemy, then Sublime, then Envy. Now I've put down Celestial and Tranquil. I love the names of these. Very pretty names. And they're just blending so beautifully. And the next one I used is Villainous. And then we have Intrigue. And then we have Enchanted. And then a little bit more Deception. And Splendor. And then I tried to put some more of that Tranquil in there. And as I start to spritz it, you can see that it does start to get a little muddy in areas. right there. It's starting to get a little muddy, but it's not bad yet. In those situations, I just put down more of the color that I want to show. Adding a little bit more deception. I didn't bring any of the browns in at this point because I just wanted it to be a full rainbow. And I'm just spritzing that around. Keep going where I think I need more of color. And I love all that veining in there. It's so beautiful. And that's going to finish off this background. So it's still fairly wet, obviously, but you can see the shimmer. Not as well as if you were able to see it in person, but it's, oh my gosh, so pretty. And I'm just keeping this in here to show you that doing this on my glass mat, it's super easy cleanup. All I did was spritz water, and I'm using a microfiber cloth, spritzing more water, and just making sure that I've got it all cleaned up. So super easy cleanup. I should add that for these first few backgrounds, I am using the Ranger Yupo paper. I just have it trimmed down. And but I will use some heavyweight vellum and others, and then I do use some other surfaces as well. I'm going to stick with the blues this time. And I also will say that I've said this before, I actually don't have a very well ventilated area, and for whatever reason I just was not paying much attention. And so the first day I was doing this, I didn't have my mask on. I don't have a fan in here. I have no window. It's a very small space right next to the laundry room. Like, I think this is actually supposed to be a pantry. But, so I wasn't using my mask. I wasn't thinking. And later that night, I had a sore throat. So I can't emphasize enough that just do these things in a well-ventilated area. You may not need a mask. I do, because I just don't have the space or a fan or any of that. So just do it in a well-ventilated area so that you don't end up having issues later. And the reason I'm thinking this is what it was is because the next day I felt fine after the morning when I woke up and I was like, boy, my throat still is a little bit sore. Later on as the day went on, I felt fine. So, and then I went back and played. I put my mask on and felt good again. So I am using a synthetic paintbrush. This is the one that Ranger actually that they market for the alcohol inks, and I just have put some of that blending solution on there, and I've tapped that off to give some droplets. And I also put some of the pearl inks in my paintbrush as well. I would just say, if you're going to do that, make sure you clean it off really well. Just use some of that isopropyl alcohol because it will stiffen the brush. It's the mica that does it, because on my other alcohol inks I don't have that problem. So just clean it off really well. And yeah, so I'll just keep going back and forth doing that with this background in particular. And there's that. Super shiny and shimmery. For this next background, I am using some heavyweight vellum. I am shaking the stew out of those colors. I'm going to use the pinks and the purples and also the smolder. And I'm doing the same sort of thing. Nothing earth-shattering or new here that I'm doing. I just want to see how these colors end up playing together. Kind of mad at myself for getting that off my paper there quite a lot. You know, when you're talking about little bottles like this, you don't want to waste any of it. So I'm pulling in that smolder. And it almost kind of looks, or at least reminds me a little bit like the gold, or maybe not necessarily the gold, but the gunmetal mixative, just a little bit. I will say that I did use the mixatives with these just to see how they would react. And I feel like they work fairly similar, other than they stick to the paper a little bit more. So you'll see, I'll show you a little bit later. But when I spritz down the mixatives, it sticks to the paper a lot better, and it doesn't move as easily. Whereas these, you know, you just stick a little bit of that alcohol blending solution on in there, and they are free flowing. So I'm really liking how these colors are mixing together, and I love that touch of smolder. I think it's really nice, and because they're pearlized, like I said, it does give it like a glimpse of some sort of mixative. Once again, splattering some of that blending solution on there, kind of trying to use my paintbrush to move some of that around, and then I'll just clean off my brush using some isopropyl alcohol that I've put onto my glass mat. Here's one of the first backgrounds that I tried to use some of the mixatives with these pearls as well. So I've got a little bit of the gold, and I only put a tiny spritz of that stuff, and once again, it, you know, just sort of takes over, and it doesn't move as easily as it should, in my opinion. So I'm just going to keep trying, and I'm just using the red, the orange, and the pink in here because I thought those colors would mix well. And I try to be very sparing with the gold mixative, only trying to put it on some of the edges. But you can see it's not cooperating as well as it could or should. And I know there's probably a better way to do it. And so I'm going to end up trying to use those little, whatever they are, sticks that came in my bundle. They're called Pixis or whatever they're called, sticks. And I don't get a lot of luck with those either. But I'll figure something out because I am not going to give up on these mixatives. Then I decide to go ahead and put a little bit on my glass mat off to the side there. Put a little alcohol blending solution all over my paper and use that little stick to see if I can paint it on there. And I don't think my technique is very good. I'm not going to give up necessarily on these sticks either, but I'm not getting the result that I was kind of hoping for. So I try and see if I can get that to move a little bit by adding some more ink. And after about 20 minutes of playing around, this is the background I ended up getting. At this point, I decided to bring in the alcohol ink surfaces. These are in gloss, matte, and foil. And I just wanted to see how these would look on there. So I'm grabbing one of the foil ones, one of the matte ones, and one of the gloss ones. And we're going to play with those as well. I started off with the foil cardstock and just using the blues, purples, and the pinks. And I'm trying to do, I think that's gunmetal is what I grabbed, just seeing how that would react. It doesn't really show up a whole lot on there. And once again, I feel like these react almost like the pearls themselves, other than they kind of stay put. They don't move around a whole lot. I do like the way this looks, but I did find that as I was playing around with them, the colors tend to not get lost on that foil, but it's almost like they lighten up. So you can see them better when you're moving the cardstock around, but it's not like the Yupo paper with that bright white background and you can just really see it. So I don't fill up this paper because I kind of liked the idea of just having some of that foil showing in the background. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty look. I don't know that it's something I would do all the time. Definitely something a little bit more specialized, but it is pretty. And here's a close-up look of how that looks finished. It's pretty. I like it. And here's the same basic design on the matte cardstock that came in that. And here's the glossy cardstock. I'm just going to use the greens and the blues, and then I'm also going to grab that rose gold mixative as well to try to put in there. So my impression of these pearl inks is that they're awesome. I can't wait to play with them along with the regular alcohol inks and see how they, how they react there. I'm sure they're probably not going to do a whole lot different other than show a little shimmer wherever I've used the alcohol pearls. But I'll tell you what, oh my goodness, they're so fun to play with. I love, just like the alcohol inks, how you can get, they're basically the same, just with pearl, how you can just get a different look every time. You're just not going to get the same thing every time. And it's fun. It's just fun to play. So I'm not sure if you have seen the video that I did with the alcohol pearl or alcohol inks. I did a video just last week actually, just making backgrounds with my alcohol inks and just playing around with those. So if you're interested in that, head back to my channel and take a look at that because that was a lot of fun. Just like this, I could do this all day long. It's just mixing the different colors, trying to see the different backgrounds you get. And then, as I said in that one, just have fun playing. Worry about your cards later, just make your backgrounds and then come up with something later. But yeah, so I would say that my general consensus is I will definitely be using these again. These are fun. All right, and here's a close-up of this one. So let's go ahead and take a look now at some cards that I made using these different backgrounds. So let me show you how I used those backgrounds that I made using the alcohol pearl inks. I made several fun cards. I have a few backgrounds left that I didn't get a chance to do anything with, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I made. So I made this one. I thought this looked like a fun water background, and this was a collaboration of Lawn Fawn and Simon Says Stamp for their Stamptember a couple years back, and so this stamp set isn't available anymore. But I just added the little otters, colored them with Copics, and cut out the sentiment after I heat embossed that. And I used some Nuvo crystal drops in the color Autumn Red to make a little heart, which isn't a great little heart. And then I also put a few dots. So there's that one. Then I used the exact same set and I made this one. And I cut out a circle with a stitch circle. I can link that down below. And then just cut out the images after I Copic colored those, backed it with some black, and then my card base is some Nina Desert Storm. And I also used some gold, some bright gold Nouveau crystal drops for this one. The next one I used is another collaboration from this year's Simon Says stamp, but Concord & Ninth does have a stamp set similar to this now, so I will link that down below. But this is what I made with this one. I just colored the little guy using alcohol markers, my Copic markers. And this is a side folder. Yeah, I just thought he looked like a lot of fun waving at you. Happy birthday. Next one I did was this. And this one uses, I took one of the backgrounds that I made, and I used this stitched or wonky stitch circle die from My Favorite Things and just cut it out several times to make a background. And then I used the Miss You die from My Favorite Things, and I cut that out 3 times, and then I went ahead and covered that with crystal or glossy accents and let that dry. I love the look of that because it kind of didn't stand out that well, and then after I put the glossy accents on it, it really stands out now. I love that. And I also used a couple different Nouveau drops. I'm kind of obsessed with Nouveau drops, obviously. So I used this Violet Galaxy, and then I also used this one. These are their new Dream Drops. This is Supernova. So I used those on this background, and I love how that turned out. Just so pretty. All right, next one. I used a couple different things. I had trimmed down, so what I had done is this was a 5x7 and I trimmed it down to 3.5 by 5. And I used this stamp set several times. This is just a sentiment stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Messages for Everyday. And I used the happy birthday out of that. And several of them just on the side here, just stamped them out. And then I put a couple of little shape sprinkles for Time for Takeout. And I put that on there because I thought that would be kind of fun, a little sushi. So, and I popped this up with some foam tape. There's that one. If these items are available, I will have those listed down below. Some of them aren't, and doing backgrounds like this, just not filming, making them, makes me feel a little bit better about using products that aren't necessarily still available. So here's this one. I used the Miss You die once again. It's kind of hard to see it because I did use a glitter cardstock with it. I wonder if I went over that with glossy accents, if I could make that pop even more. I might try that. And I also used, once again, this stamp set. And then the background that I used is this flowing vine collage. So I just cut that out of some cream cardstock, and then I backed that onto some Nina Desert Storm. This is a very flat card, so I didn't use any foam tape on that. Kind of odd, but I do like how that one turned out, because this one wasn't exactly my favorite background, but I like how that looks in the back there. And then this last one I made, probably one of my faves. I have used the Good Vibes on a alcohol ink background once before. And I love how this looks with the shimmer there. That is just gorgeous. So this is the Good Vibes die from Simon Says Stamp. And then I used that happy birthday from the Messages, Everyday Messages, or Messages for Everyday, and just stuck that on there. But oh my gosh, this is probably one of my favorites. I want to make these a zillion times over. So those are the backgrounds I used and made all these little cards with them. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I'm so thankful that you guys are here, showing the love, checking out my videos. Hopefully you're getting inspired. So thanks guys. Bye.